road that remembers. The A39 stretched ahead like a black ribbon under a sky the color of wet slate. Oliver Reed gripped the steering wheel of his battered blue Fiesta and glanced at the girl beside him. Sophie Hart sat with her knees drawn up, boots on the dashboard, scrolling through a map that kept losing signal. "Still 40 miles to the hotel," she said. "The Woodland Lodge, last place before the coast." Oliver nodded. They had left Exeter just after 6. Now it was nearly 9 and the dual carriageway had long since given way to this narrow, winding road that cut through the Quantock Hills. Trees pressed close on both sides, their branches meeting overhead, so that the headlights carved only a short tunnel of yellow light. Rain began as a fine mist, then thickened. The wipers struggled. Sophie switched on the radio. Static. She tried her phone again, no bars. "I hate these roads," she muttered. "Feels like the country's swallowing us." Oliver forced a smile. "We'll be fine. Fire, hot food, proper beds. One night away from everything." A shape flashed at the edge of the beams. Something low and fast. Crossing the tarmac. Oliver braked hard. The car skidded, tires hissing on wet leaves. When they stopped, the road ahead was empty. Sophie's voice was tight. "What was that? Fox or deer?" He restarted the engine. The temperature gauge climbed a fraction higher than usual. They drove on. The mist thickened into proper fog, rolling across the road in dense banks. Oliver slowed to 20. Every few hundred yards, a faded mile marker appeared and vanished. At one point, the white lines simply stopped, as if the council had given up painting them. Sophie leaned forward. "There, lights!" Through the fog, 2 faint yellow orbs appeared. A car coming the other way. Oliver edged closer to the verge. The approaching vehicle did not dip its lights. It came on steadily, then at the last second, swerved so that its headlamps raked their windscreen. Oliver cursed and braked again. The other car vanished into the fog behind them without slowing. "Idiot," Sophie whispered. Oliver checked the mirror. Nothing, only swirling gray. A few minutes later, the engine coughed. Once, twice, the temperature needle sat in the red. Oliver pulled onto a narrow lay-by edged by dense woodland. Steam rose from under the bonnet. "Overheating," he said. "I need to let it cool." They sat in silence while rain drummed on the roof. Sophie tried the phone again. Still nothing. Outside, the trees dripped steadily. Somewhere in the dark, a branch cracked, loud and deliberate. Oliver opened his door. "Stay here. I'll check the water." He stepped out into the cold. The air smelled of wet earth and something sharper, like metal left in rain. He lifted the bonnet. Steam billowed. When it cleared, he saw the radiator hose had split cleanly, as if cut. Coolant dripped onto the road in dark patches that looked almost black, under the fog-filtered headlights. Sophie wound down her window. "How bad?" "Bad enough. We need water or we're not moving." She pointed into the trees. "There's a stream somewhere near these hills." Maps showed one. Oliver hesitated. The woods looked solid, unbroken. No path, no signpost. Only the constant drip of water from leaves. Then from deeper in the trees, a sound carried clearly through the fog. The slow scrape of something metallic being dragged across stone. Sophie's face had gone pale. "Did you hear that?" Oliver closed the bonnet. "We're not going in there. We'll wait for another car." But no other car came. The road remained empty in both directions. The fog thickened until the lay-by itself began to disappear, and the dragging sound somewhere beyond the first line of trees continued, slow, patient, and getting no closer yet never quite fading away. They waited 20 minutes. The temperature gauge dropped a little, but the engine still refused to turn over properly. Oliver tried the ignition 3 times. Each time the starter motor groaned and died. Sophie wrapped her arms around herself. "We can't stay here all night." Oliver looked at the dark wall of trees. The dragging sound had stopped. That somehow felt worse. He reached into the back seat and pulled out the old torch he kept for emergencies. The beam was weak but steady. 5 minutes, he said. "We look for a stream, fill the bottle, come straight back. No wandering." Sophie nodded and climbed out. The moment her boots touched the wet tarmac, the fog seemed to close behind them, sealing the car from view. They stepped off the road and into the wood. The ground was soft with leaf mold. Brambles snagged at their jeans. Oliver kept the torch low, sweeping left and right. No stream appeared. Only more trees, their trunks black and slick. After a few dozen paces, he stopped. "This is far enough." Sophie pointed. "There, water." A narrow ditch ran between 2 oaks filled with dark, slow-moving water. Oliver knelt and filled the empty plastic bottle he had taken from the car. The water was colder than it should have been, and it carried a faint metallic taste when a drop touched his lip. As he stood, the torch beam caught something pale against a tree trunk 10 yards ahead. A strip of cloth, perhaps, or paper. He stepped closer. It was a child's cardigan, small and pink, hanging from a broken branch. The fabric was soaked but not rotten. Recent. Sophie whispered, "Oliver." He turned. Behind them, the path they had taken was gone. Or rather, it was still there, but the fog had thickened into a solid wall of gray. The road, the car, the lay-by, all invisible. A new sound started. Footsteps, soft, unhurried, circling them at a distance that the fog made impossible to judge. Sometimes to the left, sometimes behind. Never close enough to see. Oliver grabbed Sophie's hand. "Back the way we came now." They walked quickly, almost running. Branches whipped their faces. Twice Sophie stumbled. The footsteps matched their pace, neither gaining nor falling behind. When they finally burst out onto the tarmac again, the Fiesta sat exactly where they had left it, headlights still glowing weakly in the fog. Oliver poured the water into the radiator. The engine caught on the second try. He did not wait for it to warm. He slammed the car into gear and pulled back onto the road, tires spinning on wet leaves. Sophie locked both doors. "That cardigan." "Don't," Oliver said. "Just don't." The road climbed. Fog thinned slightly on higher ground, revealing glimpses of black hills and the occasional skeletal tree. A faded sign flashed past. Woodland Lodge, 12 miles, hotel and restaurant. Sophie exhaled. Almost there. Then the headlights picked out something in the middle of the road. A figure standing perfectly still facing them. Oliver braked hard. The figure did not move. It was tall, thin, wearing what looked like a long coat that hung in wet folds. No face was visible beneath the brim of a hat that dripped steadily onto the tarmac. Oliver's hand hovered over the horn. Before he could press it, the figure raised one arm and pointed, not at the car, but past it, back the way they had come. Sophie made a small broken sound. Oliver forced the car forward. At the last second, the figure stepped aside with unnatural smoothness, and as they passed, Oliver glimpsed something that made his stomach turn. The coat was not cloth. It was made of overlapping strips of pale, waterlogged paper, each one covered in handwriting too small to read at speed. In the mirror, the figure was already gone. The remaining miles passed in silence broken only by the engines, uneven note, and the rain. Sophie kept checking the side mirror. Nothing followed. Yet the feeling of being observed never left. At last the trees opened. A low stone wall appeared on the right, and beyond it the dark bulk of the woodland lodge. The building was larger than Oliver expected, 3 stories of gray stone, steep roof, tall windows mostly dark. A single lantern burned above the main door. The car park was empty except for one old estate car parked at an angle near the trees. Oliver stopped under the lantern. Neither of them moved immediately. "We could keep driving," Sophie said quietly. "Find another place. Next place is another 30 miles, and the car won't make it." They got out. The air here smelled of wood smoke and wet stone. Oliver locked the Fiesta and they walked to the door. A brass bell hung beside it. He rang once. The sound was dull, as if the metal itself were damp. Footsteps approached inside. The door opened a few inches. An elderly man looked out. Thin white hair, cardigan buttoned to the throat, eyes the color of weak tea. "Evening," he said. "You'd be the late booking. Reed and Hart." Oliver blinked. "We didn't book." The man smiled without warmth. "Someone did. Room 7. Top of the stairs, end of the corridor. Dinner's finished, but I can manage soup and bread." He stepped aside. The hallway was narrow, paneled in dark wood that drank the light from a single low-wattage bulb. A faded runner led to a staircase. No other guests. No sound of television or conversation. Sophie hesitated on the threshold. "Is there phone signal here?" "None," the man said. "Never has been. Mountains block it." He held out a heavy iron key. 7, don't mind the pipes. They knock when the wind's in the east." Oliver took the key. The metal was colder than the night air. Their room was at the end of a long corridor lined with closed doors. Number 7 faced the rear of the building. The window looked out over black trees that pressed almost against the glass. The furniture was old but clean. Double bed, wardrobe, a single armchair, a basin in the corner. No television, no telephone. Sophie sat on the edge of the bed. "This place feels wrong." Oliver checked the window catch. It opened easily onto a short drop to the garden. "We'll leave at first light. Car should be cooler by then." A soft knock at the door. The old man stood there with a tray, 2 bowls of thin soup, sliced bread, a small jug of water. "Storm's coming," he said. Best stay indoors. Roads flood easy round here. He left before they could answer. Oliver set the tray on the small table. The soup was almost flavorless, the bread dense and slightly sour. They ate in silence. Outside the wind rose. Branches scraped the window like fingernails. Somewhere in the building a pipe began to knock. Slow, irregular, almost like the dragging sound they had heard in the woods. Sophie pushed her bowl away. "I want to check the car." Oliver nodded. They took the key and went downstairs. The hallway was darker now. The single bulb had been switched off. Only the lantern outside gave any light. The old man was nowhere to be seen. The Fiesta sat where they had left it. Oliver opened the driver's door and froze. On the passenger seat, neatly folded, lay the small pink cardigan they had seen hanging in the trees. The fabric was still damp. Sophie backed away from the car as if it might bite. Oliver slammed the door and locked it. When he turned, the lantern above the hotel entrance had gone out. Only the faint glow from their room window high above remained. They hurried back inside. The hallway felt longer than before. The runner under their feet was wet in places, though no rain had blown in through the closed door. At the foot of the stairs, Oliver stopped. A child's voice, thin and clear, drifted down from the upper floor. "Mummy, I can't find my jumper." Sophie's hand crushed his. They stood motionless. The voice came again, closer. "It's cold without it." Then silence. Oliver forced himself up the stairs. The corridor to room 7 was empty. Every other door remained closed. No light showed beneath any of them.
He unlocked number 7.
The room looked exactly as they had left it, except the window was now wide open, curtains billowing inward, and the pink cardigan lay neatly across the pillow. Sophie made a sound halfway between a sob and a laugh. Oliver crossed the room and slammed the window shut. The catch was stiff, as if it had not been opened in years. When he turned back, the cardigan was gone from the bed. A soft thud came from the wardrobe. Oliver picked up the heavy iron key like a weapon. He opened the wardrobe door. Empty hangers. A single shelf. On the shelf sat an old leather-bound book, the kind used for guest registers. The cover was unmarked. He opened it. The pages were filled with names and dates in different hands. Most entries stopped abruptly after one night. Near the back, he found their own names already written in a neat, old-fashioned script. Oliver Reed. Sophie Hart. Arrived tonight. Room 7. Remarks. They brought the cardigan back. Below that, in the same hand, a single line. The road does not let them leave until the debt is paid. Sophie read over his shoulder. What debt? Before Oliver could answer, the lights in the room flickered and died. In the sudden dark, the knocking in the pipes grew louder, more rhythmic, like someone walking the corridors with a heavy stick. A floorboard creaked outside their door. Oliver moved to the door and listened. Soft breathing, very close on the other side. Not the old man's, lighter, younger. Sophie whispered, "The window." They crossed the room. Oliver forced the catch again. The window opened onto the night. Rain had started in earnest, cold and hard. The drop to the garden was only 10 feet or so onto wet grass. Beyond the grass, the trees waited, black and close. They climbed out one after the other, landing hard. Sophie twisted her ankle but said nothing. They ran for the car. Oliver fumbled the keys, got the door open, shoved Sophie inside, then himself. The engine caught immediately this time, as if the car itself wanted to leave. He reversed hard, spun the wheel, and aimed for the exit. The single estate car that had been parked earlier was gone. In its place stood the tall figure in the paper coat, motionless under the rain. As the Fiesta's headlights hit it, the strips of paper fluttered, revealing brief glimpses of handwritten names. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Before the figure stepped aside once more, Oliver drove. The road back the way they had come was no longer empty. Shapes moved at the edge of the beams, small figures, child-sized, standing among the trees, watching the car pass. None stepped onto the tarmac. They simply turned their heads in perfect unison as the Fiesta fled into the fog. The temperature gauge stayed normal. The engine no longer coughed. Yet the road itself seemed longer than before. They walked together through the rain, past the old man and the paper figure into the dark hallway. The single bulb was lit again. The stairs waited. At the top of the corridor, the door of room 7 stood open. Inside, the guest register lay open on the bed, a pen resting beside it. The pink cardigan was folded neatly on the pillow. Sophie picked up the pen. Her hand did not shake. She wrote their names again carefully, and beneath them a single sentence. Returned with understanding. Debt acknowledged. The moment the pen left the paper, the knocking in the pipe stopped. The wind against the window eased. Far below, the engine of the Fiesta fell silent, as if it too had been waiting. Outside, the fog began to lift. The first pale edge of dawn showed above the trees. The old man appeared in the doorway. "Breakfast is at 7, he said. "The road will be clear after that. Most guests find it so." He left them. Sophie sat on the edge of the bed. Oliver closed the register and placed it back in the wardrobe. The cardigan remained on the pillow, but it no longer felt like a threat. Only a reminder. When morning came proper, they went downstairs. The dining room was empty except for 2 places set with toast and tea. They ate quickly. Outside, the Fiesta started first time. The road that had looped endlessly now ran straight and true towards the coast. In the rear-view mirror, the woodland lodge grew smaller, then disappeared behind the trees as if it had never been there at all. Sophie rested her head against the window. "Do you think the next people will find the cardigan?" Oliver watched the clear road ahead. "Someone always does." They drove on in silence as the sun finally broke through the last of the mist, turning the wet tarmac into a river of light. If you enjoyed this video, do give it a like and make sure to subscribe for more stories.